Time for more prospect rankings, and this time, outfielders who are not going to play in center field. Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On MLB Prospects, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on in to Locked On MLB Prospects, your home for all things minor league baseball. I'm your host, Lindsay Crosby, award-winning baseball writer and podcaster, and thank you for making this your first listen every single day. We're proudly part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And today's episode is made possible by our friends at Jase Medical. Take care of yourself when you purchase a Jase case, giving you a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that can treat 50-plus infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. We've done a couple of these now. We did third base, we did catcher. I wanted to do a kind of a fun prospect ranking here of non-center field outfielders. So guys who are going to play in the corners. So as we're going through the top prospect list, we have to skip over some guys. And in the top 10, there's a really interesting back and forth debate between two outfielders after you've looked at Jackson Chourio and Dylan Crews. And those two outfielders is James Wood of the Washington Nationals and Wyatt Langford of the Texas Rangers. Some of the info on each one of these: Wood was acquired in the summer of 2022, part of the Juan Soto trade, coming over to the Nationals from the Padres. Langford obviously drafted in 2023 and had the meteoric rise through the minors. So for Wood, he's got 129 games in 2023 between high A and double A. 262, 353, 520 is the slash line. 26 home runs, 62 extra base hits, really close to one every other game. 65 walks to 173 strikeouts, again in 129 games. A lot of strikeouts. 18 to 21 on stolen bases. The big thing for me here, I think, is that strikeout rate. 173 strikeouts is a lot. And it's like Kyle Schwarber lot. 129 games. And the thing is, when he went to Double-A Harrisburg, it got worse, right? So 42 games in Wilmington, in high A Wilmington, 49 strikeouts in 42 games. In Harrisburg, James Wood strikes out 124 times in 87 games, right? Just under 1.5 every game. And growing pains and some of the struggles, but at the same time, you can see some of the actual, just the amazing talent that James Wood has. Was able to reach out to somebody and get some of the StatCast type info for James Wood. 90th percentile exit velocity, 106.9. So when we talk about James Wood, like, this is one of the things that stands out, is the power is so incredibly good. It's somewhere between 65 and 70 grade as far as power. And the question is, how well is he going to be able to get it into games? It feels like he's always going to have that swing and miss in the game. And it's just a matter of how much swing and miss, and can he still get the power to play despite that? And he doesn't chase a ton, right? 24.3% chase rate for James Wood. Some of the issues come back to issues with pitches in the zone. He's listed at 6'6", 240, so longer levers, obviously long arms, things like that. And a lot of those guys with those incredibly large frames have holes in their swing in the zone. In zone swing and miss, so in zone whiff, 23.8% for James Wood. So you can see the power potential. You can see obviously how good he is as far as, or how good he could be, but you've got some things to work on. You have to close the holes in the swing. From what I've seen, from what I've read from other people, he does struggle with seeing spin, and some of the chase comes from that. You probably need to do a little bit of biomechanical work to make it into a shorter swing And that's just, again, that's a long-armed, physically big guy. And he's played some center field, but the understanding from both a other talent in the system perspective and an eventual where his speed is going to end up, he's going to be a corner outfielder. He played 67 games in center in 2023, 46 in right, and 18 at DH. But one, you've got Dylan Cruz ahead of you in the prospect rankings, as well as at the same level there in Harrisburg with you. And the fact that his speed comes from more of the strides than it does just the sheer burst and athleticism. It really feels like you're looking at James Wood being a right fielder, and the arm is good for like above average arm. The arm's going to work. He's going to be probably an above average defender there in right field for Washington. The other side of this, Wyatt Langford, we haven't seen him struggle in professional baseball like we've seen Wood struggle in 23. Langford's 44 games divided between rookie ball, high A, double A, and triple A. He batted .360, .480, .677, 10 home runs, 29 extra base hits, 36 walks to 34 strikeouts, and 12 of 15 on stolen bases. And honestly, it's a very, dumb slash line. Like, that is a college slash line. That is not a professional baseball slash line. And for context, Wyatt Langford, his final season at Florida, batted .373, .498, .784. So, like, the pro slash line was very similar to the college slash line. Now, that being said, most of that, 24 of those 44 games, were in high A Hickory. So, we know Wyatt Langford has a bunch of power. We know he's got a good batter's eye. We know that his speed is probably better than it showed it was in college. He was 9 of 10 on stolen bases his final year at Florida, but he was 12 of 15 in the pros. So running a little bit more, being a little, not as successful, but still picking and choosing his moments there. It's definitely something where we know defensively he's restricted to left field. He's not going to be a center fielder. He's not going to play in right field. And most of his games in the minors, he did get 2 games in center for high A Hickory, but most of his games in the minors, 30 of his games, 30 of his 44 were in left field. And we know he's going to be a left fielder. He was a left fielder in college. Florida always had a better defender than him in center field. I think if I'm ranking these guys right now, and this is splitting hairs, mind you, these guys are both top 10 prospects. If I had to just off the top of my head throw out a number, I'm probably saying number 7, number 8. I guess I would put Langford right ahead of Wood with the caveat of we have not seen Langford struggle at the professional level, and it's probably coming. You can't assume the guy's not going to have adversity in professional baseball. We just haven't seen it yet, and so we don't know how it's going to manifest when it happens. Does he start to struggle with spin? Does he struggle with the physical demands of playing 6 games in 7 days? Because again, college was not like that. He played 64 games because he went all the way through to the College World Series, but it's a different type of beast playing in professional baseball. So with the understanding of we have not seen his struggles, and we've seen James Wood's struggles with spin, with swing and miss in the zone, I'm going to put Langford ahead of James Wood, but they're both top 10 prospects. This is not like we're saying one of them is garbage. We're just trying to figure out which one's the best non-center field prospect, outfield prospect, and I'd have to say it's probably Langford. In just a minute, we have a conversation about 2 top 25 prospects that are on the same team with the Baltimore Orioles. We'll discuss that next right here on Locked on MLB Prospects. But first, today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Jace Medical. They've recently told us that a lot of the ads that we were doing came off as doom and gloom because we're talking about what to do in case of natural disasters and having these emergency life-saving antibiotics and things like that. So I do want to talk about Jace daily. This is something I ordered a Jace case. I have it in my home in case something were to happen. But Jace Daily is the other aspect of their business, and it's incredibly useful. You can go online and get up to a 12-month supply of whatever your daily medication is. They've got a giant list of stuff they cover, everything from diabetes medicine and heart medicine to hair growth stuff, ED pills, giant list of stuff. You go online, you submit the form, it gets reviewed by a doctor. If they need to, they can verify your prescription that you have for that medication. And then once they approve it, a partner pharmacy ships that supply, again, up to a 12-month supply to your home. And the way it works is you start using that 12-month supply when you run out of the current supply, the current prescription that you are using. And when you get your refill, you just stick that onto the end of the 12-month supply. This way you have additional medication at home should anything happen. And promo code Locked On will get you $20 off your purchase when you're looking at the Jace Daily medications. So go to jacemedical.com. It's JASEmedical.com. Use promo code Locked On for $20 off your purchase. That's jacemedical.com, JASEmedical.com. Okay, so looking at the top non-center field outfield prospects in baseball, in the top 25, and you're skipping a couple guys to get here, right? You're skipping Evan Carter. I know he played left field in the World Series and in the postseason, but I still think he's a center fielder at the end of the day. You're passing Pete Crow Armstrong. You're passing Roman Anthony of the Red Sox. And you're probably, for now, I've got Max Clark and Walter Jenkins both playing center field. I know the odds are at least one of them is going to move before they debut, but for now, we're going to say they're both center fielders. So we're going to skip 5 outfielders here to get to these guys in our second segment, Heston Kjerstad and Colton Couser, both members of the Baltimore Orioles. Both guys have debuted. Reminder here, Couser was a first rounder, number 5 overall in 2021 out of Sam Houston State. Heston Kjerstad, the draft before, number 2 overall in 2020 out of Arkansas. But they debuted around the same time because Kjerstad missed an entire year with myocarditis, inflammation of the heart muscle. Does a lot of stuff as far as you have to shut everything down physically to allow that to recover. And they ended up being on the same development timeline. Together, not amazing results in the majors, but Heston Kjerstad, 122 games between AA and AAA this year. 303, 376, 528, 21 home runs, 58 extra base hits, 42 walks to 100 strikeouts, 5 of 9 on stolen bases. He had the better major league debut. He got 13 games at the major league level, 233, 281, 467, hit 2 homers, had 3 extra base hits, 2 walks to 10 strikeouts, did not attempt a stolen base. So the thing with Heston Kjerstad is I think overall his power level is better than Colton Couser's. And it's splitting hairs. I mean, it's not exactly splitting hairs, but I do think that his power level is probably better than Colton Couser's. Now, that said, I think Colton Couser probably has a little bit of a better hit tool, despite not showing that at the major league level, and probably a little bit better on base abilities. Colton Couser's minor league numbers, 139 games, mostly AA and AAA, 278, 406, 469, 19 home runs, 57 extra base hits, relatively close in both home runs and extra base hits, but he also played in 17 more games. He had 94 walks, so double what Heston Kjerstad had, 174 strikeouts in 139 games for Colton Couser, and 18-21 on stolen bases. Colton Couser has the advantage as far as speed. He has the advantage, I feel, as far as on-base ability. I still think he's a little bit behind on power production, power potential versus Heston Kjerstad, although the 90th percentile exit velocity numbers from their time in AAA are remarkably similar. Heston Kjerstad was at 105.1 miles an hour on 90th percentile exit velo. Colton Couser was at 105. So literally a tenth of a mile per hour difference between the two. That's one batted ball difference. So when I'm looking at these guys, and then Colton Couser's major league time did not go great. 26 games total, 115, 286, 148 slash line. No home runs, 2 extra base hits, 13 walks to 22 strikeouts, 1 for 1 on stolen bases. Heston Kjerstad is, to me, a little bit more aggressive than Colton Couser, right? Chase rate, he is 13% higher than Colton Couser. Chase rate of 36.7% for Heston Kjerstad, 23.9% for Colton Couser. But at the same time, Kjerstad, when he strikes out, when he struggles, it's because he went out of the zone for a ball. Because in the zone, he does a remarkably good job at making contact. 12.3% in zone whiff percentage. Colton Couser's at 20.2%. So to me, Colton Couser, strikeout rate of 27.6%. It's something where his ceiling feels like it shouldn't be as high as Kjerstad's because of the power, but he gives you a lot of extra non-offensive stuff. He has better speed. We see that from the stolen base numbers. He has more defensive versatility. Colton Couser can play center field or corner outfield. Heston Kjerstad, everything he did was either corner outfield or first base. So they both have some defensive versatility, but Couser's kicking into center, Kjerstad's kicking down to first. It feels like Colton Couser should have a higher floor because of the speed and the defense over Heston Kjerstad. But Heston Kjerstad has a higher ceiling because the power's better, and he doesn't really have the strikeout concerns of a Colton Couser. Again, Colton Couser struck out 27.6% of the time. And to me, I've got Heston Kjerstad ahead of Colton Couser, despite Couser being more useful defensively, better speed, more defensive versatility, because it feels like Kjerstad's floor is a little bit higher right now, and his ceiling is probably higher because of the better power production. Again, we're splitting hairs here. They're both top 25 prospects, but if we're ranking them, which is what this show is, we're putting Kjerstad above Couser. So you're looking at, for corner outfield, Wyatt Langford and then James Wood, and then Heston Kjerstad and then Colton Couser. And reminder, we skipped over 7 different center fielders to get to these 4 guys. We skipped over Jackson Chourio and Dylan Cruz, who are both above Wood and Langford. And then between Wood and Langford and getting to Kjerstad and Couser, we skipped over 5 more center fielders. Evan Carter, Roman Anthony, Pete Crow Armstrong, Walker Jenkins, and Max Clark. Even if one of those 2 Prepster draftees ends up being in a corner. In just a minute, 2 guys that are top 50 prospects in the corner outfield, and both guys that were just added to their respective teams' 40-man rosters. We'll discuss them next right here on Locked on MLB Prospects. Final segment of the Friday show of Locked on MLB Prospects. Reminder, if you have questions for the show, for our Monday mailbag, if you have show ideas, if you have segment ideas, tons of ways to get them to us. I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball, show's on Twitter at Locked on Farm, and then we have a link tree in the episode description in the show notes that has everything else. Email, subtext, our Discord, all of that good stuff. Segment 3 here, Yanquiel Fernandez and Emmanuel Rodriguez. And I've got them both as top 50 guys, and Jason Dominguez is the center fielder he's right here in the back half of this top 50 as well, so he's probably right above both of these guys, even though some people don't think he should be. But trying to rank Rodriguez and Fernandez. So here's what they did last year. Fernandez, 117 games divided between single A, high A, and double A. 265, 313, 486. 25 home runs, 53 extra base hits, 32 walks to 132 strikeouts, and 1 for 2 on stolen bases. So what can you get from that profile? There's swing and miss there. He's massive raw power. A lot of those profiles, there's swing and miss in there, but 53 extra base hits in 117 games. Obviously, the power is real. 132 strikeouts, 32 walks. So maybe not necessarily as patient at the plate as he needs to be. And then 1 for 2 on stolen bases, not a ton of speed in there as well. Compare that with Emmanuel Rodriguez. 99 games, all in high A Cedar Rapids. We've talked about him a couple times this year. But 240, 400, 463, 16 home runs, 38 extra base hits, 92 walks to 134 strikeouts, and 20 of 25 on stolen bases. It's a really unique slash line for Emmanuel Rodriguez, right? And that's actually 97 walks. That's my fault there. And the everydayers will remember us talking about Emmanuel Rodriguez. And some of what we talked about was really good power, very good pitch recognition, but almost too passive, right? The strikeouts were so bad, especially early in the year. He batted 155 in the month of May with 30 strikeouts in 20 games because he was waiting for a perfect pitch versus a good pitch. And he would get himself into a disadvantaged count. And then all of a sudden, he's having to expand the zone, swing it crap, getting swings and misses in there. Started to fix that, did really well in June. 23 games in June, 277, 425, 518. So looked much better in the month of June. Still struck out 26 times in 23 games, but was getting better. And then August, another similar month, showed the potential of Emmanuel Rodriguez when he's in a groove and he's understanding that perfect is the enemy of good. 284, 410, 531. So for Emmanuel Rodriguez, I think the speed is better than Yanquiel Fernandez. You can see that in the stolen base numbers. It's such a significant discrepancy that you have to chalk it up as legitimately it is better. And I think that's something Rodriguez, to me, when I watch him, doesn't have anything better than I think average speed. Yanquiel Fernandez, I think, just isn't that fast. I think his speed is legitimately below average. The difference there, I think the ultimate power ceiling for both of these guys is probably relatively even. It's probably a 60 or maybe a 65 for both. I think the difference here, and the reason I'm going to put Emmanuel Rodriguez ahead of Yanquiel Fernandez, is I would rather have a guy that doesn't swing enough versus having a guy that swings too much. And Yanquiel Fernandez, very aggressive. He has good barrel control. He's got good hands. He can adjust to get to balls. But the thing here is he's just too aggressive. And so because of that, some of it's suboptimal contact, but some of it's just swing and miss as well. Because when you are overly aggressive, you are very susceptible to just good pitches. Whereas Emmanuel Rodriguez, he has such a good amount of patience and such good pitch recognition that you have to throw a good pitch to get him or have a bad umpire that just rings you up on a bad pitch. But I would rather have the guy that's too selective and teach him to be a little more aggressive than to have the guy that's too aggressive and have to try to calm that down, right? So if I'm ranking these guys, I've probably got Emmanuel Rodriguez ahead of Yanquiel Fernandez. And then reminder, because we're skipping center fielders here, they're probably both ahead of behind Jason Dominguez. And that show, we'll probably do that show next week, actually, talking about center fielders. And it's going to be Churio and Cruz and PCA and Carter. We might not even get to Jason Dominguez because there's another 7 guys ahead of him. And it's hard to fit more than about 6 or 7 in these shows. Right behind this group, and a guy that I think is probably a lot better than some of the rankings have him. I've seen a lot of places have him. If they have him as a top 100 guy, they have him in the back half of the top 100, if not, 99 or 100. When he probably should be a little bit farther up is Owen Caissie of the Cubs. Reminder, 2020 second rounder by the Padres, was traded over from the Padres to the Cubs. But what he did last year, I think a lot of this, he's one of those guys that opinions of him were colored because of the struggles early in AA with those baseballs. His full season slash line in 120 games, 289, 399, 519, 22 home runs, 55 extra base hits, which sounds great, right? 76 walks to 164 strikeouts in 120 games. And then 7-16 on stolen bases. So there's the rub, right? It's okay, yeah, strikeout issues, 170 strikeouts and all that. But if you, like we do with so many Southern League guys, if you isolate the second half of the season when the tacky baseball, the pre-tacked baseball went away, 53 games, 307, 423, 510. There's that 3-4-5 slash line that we talk about. Only 7 home runs in those 53 games, 24 extra base hits, 38 walks to 65 strikeouts. So he's still striking out a little bit over once every other game, but it's not 170 strikeouts in 124 games, right? It's the strikeout rate comes down, the batting average goes up. Now he wasn't hitting for as much power, but I legitimately think Owen Caissie is one of the more talented outfielders that we aren't maybe necessarily talking about. And I say that a lot of places have him as a top 100 prospect still. A guy where arm is good enough to play right field. Defensively, he's probably average in right field. Speed is average as well. But the thing he is here to do, I think Owen Caissie may have some of the best raw power of any corner outfielder in the minors. Now, what is it going to be in the game? I think it's going to be probably plus power, maybe 65. But I think as far as raw power, it's some of the best in all of baseball. And so when you're talking about who's in that top 50, most places you're going to see a Yanquiel Fernandez, you're going to see Emmanuel Rodriguez. I think Owen Caissie probably deserves to be closer to the back half of the top 50 than where a lot of places currently have him, which is the back half of the top 100 or not on the top 100 list at all. Fantastic week this week. Really enjoyed all of our shows. Next week, Thanksgiving. We're going to have some shows come out every day. Don't worry about missing about us not having content because of the holiday. We give people what they want here. Again, reminder, if you have mailbag questions, I'm on Twitter at Crosby Baseball. Show's on Twitter at Locked On Farm. Everything else is in the episode description, in the show notes, Discord, and email, and all that. We still have room for questions in Monday's mailbag, so send those to us. In the meantime, enjoy the weekend, and remember, it's always a great time to pay a minor leaguer.